You're listening to the Under the Ring Report, a weekly podcast that asks the question, why pro wrestling? Here's your host, John the Flesh Wound.
And welcome, wrestling fans, to episode 4 of the Under the Ring Report. This week, we wrap up our 3-part interview with the Native American Tatanka that we conducted in March of 2000. Now, in this last interview, we'll be getting into his thoughts on some of his greatest matches during his professional career. Let's get to that interview right now here on the Under the Ring Report.
Under the Ring Report flashback interview.
Now, 2 last questions before we let you go, okay? First thing, of your time in the World Wrestling Federation, what would you say is probably some of your most memorable matches ever?
Well, I was fortunate to be able to wrestle top stars in the World Wrestling Federation, which is great. I started off with Rick the Model Martel, and what an honor that was, and what a benefit it was for me to be able to get into the ring right when I went there for the whole first year and be taught while I was wrestling by one of the best wrestlers in professional wrestling. He's been concerned as one of the best technical wrestlers and knowing the business of all guys. And as we know, the model was primed, during his years at the World Wrestling Federation. He's one of their top, stars. So I really enjoyed working with him, but I went from him to another guy that I consider great talent. He's not being able to really show his stuff right now, but at WWF he got to show his stuff, and that's Bam Bam Bigelow.
That's correct.
Bam Bam Bigelow, what an athlete. You're talking about a man that's over 400 pounds, that's doing moonsaults off the top rope, that can do anything, and me and him had just incredible matches. We had matches where, literally the building was just, the ring was shaking because the people in the building were so loud. It was just, it was awesome. We just had awesome matches. So I really enjoyed the matches with Bam Bam. And then I went from there and I moved into matches with Yokozuna, that was the heavyweight champion, another great athlete. He's, doing those years, what a huge guy, 560 pounds at that time, and doing incredible things in the ring, and we all know that was pushed to the top in the hilt at that time, and beat, of course, one of the biggest names in our business. Even though that people think that he should be gone, you can never forget what Hulk Hogan has done for the world of professional wrestling. Never forget. Again, he helped pave the way. And then I moved into with IRS, another great talent, a great wrestler, a great guy that can tie you up in a knot, literally, and we had great matches. Another great match, and what I'm getting to here, there was never just one match that I remember that was the greatest. I had awesome matches with Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 9 for the title, which I beat him.
Yep, that's true.
I beat him, but I really did beat him, and I should have had the title, and there's a lot more to say about that, about I should have really had the title, because it was my timing at that time to have the title, but at that time the title didn't happen. But I beat Shawn Michaels, and all the fans were ready for me to have it at that time too.
There's a lot of politics to it.
Of course
we
there
know
is.
that, yeah.
Yes, of course that is, and the first thing you don't want to do is you don't want to get on an interview like this or anything and try to tell the fans that there's not, because is there not politics in wrestling? Of course there is, but like I just did an interview the other day, there's politics in everything that you do. There's politics at the job that you work at IBM. There's politics at everywhere that you work. So is it any different? No, it's not any different. But in the world of professional wrestling, sometimes what's bad about politics is someone could maybe be getting ready to get about, and because maybe some false things are said about that person, or someone trying to create another new and better ideal, the belt won't go to who it should at that time. And I'm not saying that's the case at all times, because, ultimately, the right decisions have to be made for a company to continue to be successful, like how Vince is right now. But yes, does it happen? Yes, it does happen. So, but me and Shawn had awesome matches, and of course, I ended with Lex, and I think, not saying anything about myself, I'm very, very thankful about my career, and I thank God for the awesome things that have happened, and also my talent in the ring. But I will say that me and Lex had awesome matches, and probably some of Lex's best matches. We had awesome matches. It was just the turn, and it really put the fire on him. And we had awesome matches. We got to see Lex Luger with a different aspect of Lex Luger, and I remember Lex, doing those days as the Lex that I used to watch in the older days of WCW when he was wrestling Flair, and he was the new hot thing at WCW, and of course Lex has always been in awesome shape. But during that time, me and him had awesome matches.
Well, I think too. That was when I think in his time with you, that was probably some of his best wrestling. Of his career, it had to be.
Oh,
you both seemed to push each other.
Yes, it was a perfect match. It was a great angle that was decided. Me and Vince talked about it. It originally came from him, and it was a great angle, and it was perfect, and it was just perfect for the timing. It just worked out, perfectly, and because of that angle. It had everything it needed. And I was so hot as a baby face at that time. When I turned, it really shocked the people and really put the fuel on them to really be hot against me. And then I come out with Ted DiBiase, which added just even more credibility to it. The $1 Million Man, another big name in the business. And Lex had been pushed a lot there as a baby face. We remember the Lex Express and all those things. But when they did that, all those things seemed to come together for him finally, and man, we went to buildings, they were just on fire. I remember, he would just get hold of me after the match, and the people were just exploding. So, we had great matches there, and I'm just thankful because all 5 of my angles, all 5 of them, not only were very, very successful for the World Wrestling Federation, but of course me today, and that's something else that's a big plus because we don't see that anymore. One of the biggest things the fans are telling me is, man, I wish I could see this solid wrestling in the middle of the ring with solid issues between a good guy and a bad guy, with solid issues that would last more than 1 or 2 months, that could last a year like your angles did, and like some of the angles of some of the guys during that time.
Well, see, that's what I was going to get into is, nowadays it's a feud that lasts maybe, if you're lucky, a month because it's to every pay-per-view. And what do you see? That being one of the big differences, what's your take on wrestling now compared to then?
Well, you just named it. You just hit it right on the button, John. The biggest thing is what has happened in our business where we had 4 and 5 pay-per-views before. Now they're going to pay-per-views every month. And because of that, they're having to, because pay-per-views in our business is where you, what do you want to say? It's the big...
payoff, or
it's the big match of 2 guys. 2 guys could wrestle every Monday night, and be main event. But the big main event in our business is when the 2 guys meet at the pay-per-view.
Yes.
Either the bad guy's finally going to take down the good guy, or the good guy's going to get his revenge. One of the 2, and that's where it happens. And unfortunately, what has happened is, yes, it's great because, you're getting pay-per-views, and it's great financially not only for the wrestlers and for the company, but because of adding pay-per-views every month, what's happening is the issues, it's hard to continue to carry the issues on. They're having to be ended at pay-per-views, and that's the reason the issues are being ended so quickly, because it's hard to carry that issue through a whole year of pay-per-views with the same person. And that's the problem, where before, we had like 4 major pay-per-views, and then we had 5, which you're looking at every 3 months there. And then also what happened is you didn't have all the talent on every pay-per-view. Sometimes what happened is you'd be on one pay-per-view and not the next pay-per-view, so maybe you wouldn't be seen for 6 months on a pay-per-view. You'd be seen on one, but you wouldn't be seen again till another 6 months.
Well, and a lot of your titles weren't defended at every pay-per-view either.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's another thing. So there's a lot more things that have been added that has caused the angles to be able to be shortened. Do I believe that's going to be a hindrance in the long run to wrestling? Yes, I do, without a doubt, because, how do you top it? Where do you go to next? We got the big explosion with wrestling, but, what is the next step, and what do you do to top what you've done, to continue keeping things on fire? Because as we all know, when it gets to the top, you got to continue to stay on top. You just don't stay on top because you made it there.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. So now that's where the World Wrestling Federation is at now. They're at a level that they've never been at, no company's ever been at, but it's a matter of keeping it. And because of that, it's really making that office and other people have to constantly think of, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do here? What are we, which that's very strainful and stressful in itself. Having to think of new issues. How do we keep, the interest? How do we keep the people involved? What do we do next? What do we do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, which is great. It keeps the people seeing new things. But the thing about it, it's constantly something new. Where I believe that it would make it even easier for the company, because there's nothing greater that I believe that was greater for the company and the wrestler than this. Back in those days, WWF was still doing awesome. Not doing as great as it has today.
Yeah.
But the thing about it in those days, what was great is they would do an angle, put the fire on it, and it would come together. And what was so great is when it would be so hot that it could go for a whole year. They wouldn't have to concentrate on those two guys anymore. It was already on fire, and they would just send it worldwide into all the arenas worldwide and come back around the second time. And then finally, when it was time, take it to a big pay-per-view at the end of the year and then blow it off that way.
Well, one of the angles I remember was Hogan versus the Warrior. I believe they started building that up like in September or August the year before. And that thing continued till it accumulated at WrestleMania. And I mean, people were crazy about that.
Correct. And that's what's so great, because you don't have to continually think, well, who do I need to put this person with? What do we do? How do we do that? You've already got the storyline. The storylines are, all you have to do is just add some more to it, and keep adding until you finally get it to where you want it. Let it run for as long as you want it to run, and let it satisfy the people, but bring the full satisfaction to the people at the big pay-per-view.
Right.
And that, what a great concept. I mean, great concept. And I know that would still work today, without a doubt. I know it would still work, but it's just a matter of, doing some readjusting. Of course, having all the pay-per-views, like you said, not every guy's got to be on every pay-per-view. Not every title's got to be defended on every pay-per-view. So, if there's somewhere to change, that's the place where it can change. But, you got some smart guys out there, and some guys that are helping Vince, and Vince himself, and they've done some awesome things. So we're going to see, where it's going to go from this point. But I know there, again, like I said, WCW's got a lot of room that they can build, and some awesome things that they can do, some awesome room for growth. And like I said, also, there's some big players that are looking to get involved, because as we all know, wrestling is just soaring to the heights of financial prosperity for not only for the wrestlers, but biggest thing for, the companies themselves and the people that can, with TV, that do have TV, they can sell advertising time on those TVs. Because let's face it, wrestling is the number one cable event, and everyone wants to be on that WWF show and buy that advertisement time, and they'll pay whatever kind of money to be in that spot.
All right. Well, Chris, one thing before we let you go is make sure to give everyone your web address again so they can get over there and check that out. It's a great site.
My address, again, is www.nativetatanka.com.
Thanks a lot for talking to us here on the Under the Ring Report.
Well, that's great, John. I really appreciate all the time, and, thanks for having me on Under the Ring Report. And I want to say goodbye to all those awesome fans out there.
And that wraps up our 3-part interview with the Native American Tatanka. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the Under the Ring Report. Next week, we'll be talking to more fans, and we want to get their thoughts and your thoughts on Roman Reigns. So that'll be next week's show. Make sure to go to undertheringreport.com, subscribe, so you'll always get the brand new episodes of the podcast. And you can follow us on Twitter at UTRR Podcast. You can also check us out on Facebook at UTRR Podcast. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks again for joining us here on the Under the Ring Report.
Hello, wrestling fans and sports fans of all kinds. This is the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest WWF Intercontinental Champion of all time, and you're listening to Under the Ring Report.
Thanks for listening to the Under the Ring Report. Please visit undertheringreport.com and subscribe for free so you can listen every week to the Under the Ring Report.